So a little over 10 years ago, I spent about 6 months in Copenhagen. It was during college. I was studying abroad. It was probably one of my favorite periods of my life, and I'm so grateful to have been able to do that. But when I lived abroad, I did not have many belongings. And though it wasn't entirely purposeful, I was actually living a pretty extreme minimalist lifestyle. And since I have a minimalist channel these days, I thought, I should share a few tidbits of what I learned, strategies I used, and the lessons I learned from those experiences. I feel like talking about this stuff helps boost my own motivation because it's like, okay, I used to live a really minimal life. If I could do it then, I can probably do at least something similar now. So if you're looking for just a little bit of decluttering or minimalist motivation, you're in the right place. Also, if you're new here, hi, I'm Aylin, and I make content on simple living, minimalism, and building an empowering mindset. If any of those topics interest you, definitely hit the subscribe button below. Enough of that, onto the video. The first way I lived as a minimalist was that I lived for those 6 months out of one suitcase. And to be completely honest, I never felt like I didn't have enough clothes. Now, I'll admit I was really into secondhand shopping while I was there, so I did purchase several pieces because there were these amazing secondhand shops that felt very Copenhagen. So it's not like I didn't buy anything while I was there, but I was also able to come back home in that same suitcase. The point is, I lived out of a suitcase for basically 6 months and was totally fine, and I never was in want of something more. What's weird is now I might even feel like I have more holes in my closet than I did then. Because I was constrained to only live out of a suitcase, maybe that made it easier to make decisions about what I was going to wear in the morning. It simplified all my decisions, and I grew to really love the pieces I had because I would wear them a lot and they really felt like they were part of me. Anyway, maybe this can just serve as a reminder to you and to me that maybe we don't need quite so many pieces in our closets to feel satisfied. Maybe the problem is sometimes we have too many. The second way I lived minimally was that I lived in a very small studio apartment with a tiny kitchenette. I didn't have a couch. I didn't have a table. All I had was a twin bed and a desk. When I'd have guests over, we would just sit on the bed and the one chair that I had, or if it got to be too many people, we'd go and spend some time in the common space. Admittedly, it also may have been related to my phase of life. I mean, I was in college, so maybe that was a little bit more normative, but I will say I was never in want. I was never like, I need some big living room for hosting. I never felt like I really needed a table because I just used my desk as a table. And another thing is that having a small space encouraged me to get out and about. Maybe it was also because I was abroad and I felt like I needed to take advantage of my time there. But I also think that having a small space at home encouraged me to spend more time outdoors, going on walks, or even eating meals outside. It also encouraged me to be more social and to go over to other people's homes. What's funny is I really enjoyed that apartment, especially because it was sparse and it felt light and airy, even though it was small. The third way I lived minimally was that I lived on a small grocery budget. I think I had about $500 or so in my grocery budget, and that sustained me for the entire time I was there. Now, granted, this was a little over 10 years ago, and I was only cooking for one, but I really didn't go out to eat much, at least practically never for like an actual dinner meal. Sometimes for lunch. But I was really cooking for myself. At that time, I ate a lot of grains and oats and vegetables and just made it work. And I will admit, I probably took some extreme measures that maybe I didn't even need to take, or maybe I shouldn't have taken. Like it was a regular thing for me to water down my milk or to just like make things go really, really far. But living that way for a period of time does make me realize how often I do overpay or overpurchase for groceries. I think about how sometimes I buy things from Costco, or I get containers of things that are quite large and then I don't finish everything. And I just think back to that time and realize that if I could wear that mindset a little bit more and really care about every little bit of food I purchase, I might save a lot more money than I'm saving right now. It's just kind of a reality check. Another way I lived more minimally and saved money was that I never purchased new makeup while I was there. And maybe that was a little extreme, like maybe I shouldn't have been using the same items for that long in some cases, but I managed it and I was fine. And it's just a reminder to think about making a curated set of makeup pieces that really work for you, that you can use over and over again, and that can stick with you for the long run. And that's actually where the sponsor of our video fits in today. Merit Beauty is arguably the best option on the market for minimal, clean beauty, keeping a routine that's simple and streamlined and curated. So basically, Merit is a minimalist beauty brand that has a set of edited essentials. For example, it has the Minimalist, which serves both as a concealer and a foundation. I also love their signature lip because it's super smooth, velvety, and very buildable. Their Flush Balm is this cream tint that just melts into your skin. It's color that stays flush all day. I've talked about it before on this channel, but I am truly obsessed with their Great Skin Instant Glow Serum. I historically have had very dry, very flaky skin, have struggled with rosacea, and this product makes my face feel and look like glass. It creates a barrier between your skin and the outside so that it really captures and keeps in that moisture. What I also like about Merit is that they go beyond clean beauty. They care also about products that leave your skin looking better after wearing them. So they've added things like vitamin B5 and antioxidants to ensure that their products work for everybody with dry to oily to acne-prone skin. All of their products are non-comedogenic, which is a term I did not know, but that means that they're formulated with ingredients that will not clog your pores. I also think it's super thoughtful that with every first order of a Merit product, you get a free Merit signature bag, and all orders over $40 ship free. I truly adore these products. Like, I know this is a sponsorship, but I use them all the time. They leave my skin in such better shape. And so if you have some skin problems, if you're struggling to find that simpler routine in the morning that works for you, I just highly recommend you try out Merit. If you're interested, check out the link in the description box below. And thanks to Merit Beauty for partnering with me. On to the rest of the video. A fifth way I lived minimally was that I only had a few plates, several pieces of silverware, and one pan and one pot. Granted, I lived alone, but honestly, it was totally fine. And when my boyfriend at the time and two of his friends came to visit and I cooked for them, I just had to have one of them use a bowl instead of a plate, and they were totally fine with it. Again, I know it was a different phase of life, but I do feel like sometimes we feel like we need more than we actually need just because of societal norms. And I would just encourage you, and I want to encourage myself, to challenge some of those assumed beliefs that, like, I need a big set of plates. Now, I already have a set of plates, so I might keep those, but I could also apply that principle to other areas of my life. What am I buying just because society tells me I should have this? The question is, do I really need it? A sixth way is that I did not have a full-length mirror. And that doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but as a young woman, that was actually kind of a shift for me. Like, I never even saw my full body's reflection for like quite some time while I was there. I was able to put together outfits. I was able to look at the smaller mirror I had when it was really important, and I was totally fine. And it's just a reminder that sometimes, again, the things that society tells us is normal to have or that we need to have might not really be necessary. A seventh way is that I did not have a TV or a stereo or really any other kind of tech other than my computer. And then also, I guess, my really old-fashioned phone that could only text and call. I would just do things like print out stuff at the university location. And for directions, I would also look up the directions ahead of time and print them out. I did watch TV on my computer, and yes, the music sound that I played wasn't the best quality, but I survived. An eighth strategy I used to live minimally was to use layering to adjust to different seasons. I arrived in the winter and left basically in the spring/summer, so I experienced a wide variety of temperatures and very different weather. I had a little puff coat and then a heavy-duty raincoat and another kind of wool coat, and I would just layer them together depending on the temperature. So I think it's just about thinking creatively about how you can use what you already have to adjust to different seasons. And also not to assume that, like, bright colors can only exist in the spring and summer, or assuming you can only wear gray in the winter. Like, I think we can open our minds to the idea that we don't need totally different wardrobes for every single season. Anyway, I just wanted to share these little ways I adjusted my life to live extremely more minimally. And while I'm still pursuing minimalism and I'm not as extreme as I once was while I was studying abroad, looking back at those times helps remind me that I can be doing more to be living more minimally, and that it doesn't actually have to feel difficult. That's one thing that strikes me, is that looking back, it wasn't like I felt like I was in want or I needed more. I was totally fine. In fact, it was one of the best, happiest times of my life. These experiences encouraged me to be more social, to get out of the house, to go to gardens or to cafes, as well as to travel, either to little nearby towns on shorter trips or on bigger, longer trips to different countries. It also kind of reminds me that sometimes the less we have, the more we feel content. There have been times where I've assumed that having less will make me feel more in want, but looking back, I felt way less in want, arguably, than I do now. And I think that's a good reminder to me when I'm in the midst of decluttering or debating about whether to get rid of something. Quite often, keeping the thing will make me want more things. And I need to remember that ultimately, happiness is not something I derive from stuff. Happiness is something I derive from connecting with people, from deepening my relationships, from having a good day's work and feeling a sense of that accomplishment, from doing something creative and finding meaning in that. I need to remember what actually brings me joy, and stuff is not what does that for me. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. It's a great way to support the channel, so if you're willing to take a moment to do that, I'd really appreciate it. Finally, if you liked this video, you also may enjoy a recent video I made with basically just a set of really simple principles that really changed my approach to minimalism and rejuvenated my motivation. I will link that video at the end of this one. Anyway, thank you so much for spending this little bit of time with me, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye!